Hey everyone, Ben here. With so many racing sims on the market, how do you know which is best for you? Well, in this feature-packed guide, I'm going to try and help you out. Every major sim on the market brings something distinctive to the table, and each has its own strengths and weaknesses. Depending on what you're looking for, some sims are going to suit you better than others. So here's 5 things you might value most in a sim racing title, together with the sims that do it best, and those that you'd probably be better off avoiding. Oh, and stick around to the very end for a quick fire round of sim racing recommendations too. Number 1, I want really great graphics. It's not a crime to prioritise great graphics in your sim racing title. Although by no means the be all and end all, the visuals of a game are key to immersion and really putting you in the cockpit of a car. 2 games really stand out on this front for me: Assetto Corsa Competizione and Automobilista 2. The former requires a pretty hefty PC to get the most out of it, while the latter is much more accessible for lower end machines. And on the flip side, if graphics really matter to you above all else, RaceRoom is probably not going to be the sim for you. I'm a huge fan of it, but it does look its age, and some tracks can look pretty rough around the edges. Number 2, I want a brilliant online experience. For some, sim racing is all about racing online. Although third-party platforms and league racing exists across almost all sims, the 2 titles with the best inbuilt online racing platforms for me are iRacing and RaceRoom. iRacing has the biggest player base in all of sim racing, multi-split sessions, and can guarantee you a race in a wide range of disciplines at almost any time of the day. RaceRoom has a super ranked system, great contact detection and physics for close competitive online racing. Other titles don't really have an inbuilt ranked system that can compete with these 2 titles, even though rFactor 2 is continuing to develop its competition system, and ACC has low fuel motorsport, which is, in fairness, excellent. Number 3, I want a wide range of racing disciplines. If you want access to a wide range of racing disciplines spanning touring cars, open wheelers, modern and historic machinery, you should try RaceRoom, Assetto Corsa with mods, or AMS2. The breadth of content in each is fantastic, and there will almost certainly be something for everyone included. On the flip side, although recently expanded to include new cup cars, ACC is pretty limited by comparison to a handful of GT categories. iRacing has loads of content, but all of it is locked behind a very steep paywall, which means most users will focus on only a small number of series. Number 4, I don't want to spend a fortune. Sim racing software does not have to be expensive. Assetto Corsa is regularly on sale with all of its DLC for around £5, which is unbelievable value, even without the litany of free and paid for mods that exist. ACC is also great value for money in my opinion, given the polished product you get for no more than a regular AAA video game. And RaceRoom may have a confusing purchasing model, but compared to other titles in the market, content is pretty competitively priced. Obviously, if you are sim racing on a budget, you're going to want to largely avoid iRacing. You can play on the relative cheap, but honestly I'm not sure why you'd want to when other options for ranked racing exist, and the risk is you end up spending more than you'd otherwise want to unlock extra content anyway. Number 5, I want the best physics and force feedback. Now this is a controversial one, as everyone will have a view on this, and to a degree it does come down to personal preference. For me, ACC and RaceRoom have the best physics and force feedback out of the box, with both offering a predictable, authentic feeling experience and highly communicative and intuitive force feedback to let you know what the car is doing. I have a preference for slightly understeery physics, which I think ACC and RaceRoom have in common, versus the more oversteery, tail-happy physics of something like AMS2 or rFactor 2. Although I will say rFactor 2's force feedback in particular is strikingly good. Although it has come on leaps and bounds in recent months, if the most sophisticated physics and force feedback is what you're really after in a sim, I'd say you're still most likely to be disappointed by AMS2. Right then, the quickfire round. What if you want the best damage model in sim racing? Well, I'd say go for iRacing, or at a push, ACC. Both have decent crash physics, damage that affects the cars themselves, and iRacing's damage system looks spectacular too. What about the best AI? Well, I don't race offline much anymore these days, but in my limited experience, ACC's AI is pretty great and believable. rFactor 2's can be good in my experience, but I've also heard very mixed reports from others. RaceRoom's AI is largely great and will give you a really competitive battle out on track, especially if you use the adaptive AI difficulty option, which calibrates the strength of field against your skill level over a number of races. AMS2's remains a bit hit and miss. What about changing weather in a day and night cycle? Well, for now, AMS2 and ACC remain your best bets in my view, although rFactor 2 has just received a wet weather update. The original Assetto Corsa can be modded to offer some of these features, and iRacing does feature night races and potentially soon will have wet weather too. Unfortunately, RaceRoom features neither. And finally, if you just want a simple plug and play experience with minimal fuss, no need for extra mods or to remortgage your house to play, then I don't think you can go wrong with either Assetto Corsa Competizione, AMS2 or RaceRoom. And of course you can use the rest of this list to decide which of these is best for you. And there's our list. If you still can't quite decide which sim is best for you, I've got you covered. There's a playlist of more detailed reviews of each of these sims up on screen now, and I'll see you on the next one.